Hello, I'm Robert Wolf,
And I'm Michael Hall.
and you're watching Innovation Coffee. Hello, everyone. Once again, I'm Robert Wolf, joined here with Michael Hall, my co-host, here bringing you ARM's Innovation Coffee, where the coffee's hot and the innovation is hotter. I'm actually not even drinking coffee today. I'm drinking a Celsius, which is pretty tasty.
It's a little bit
Yeah.
warm across the country to be drinking coffee, isn't it?
Yes, I agree. But yeah, so everyone watching, this is a place where the developers come to meet and talk with us, the developer evangelists of ARM. We bring on featured guests, talk to folks in the industry from all over the world, answering your questions and bringing hot topics to light, the things that are happening all around the world on ARM. And today we are going to be meeting with Simone Romano and Giuseppe Deluca, who are part of the developer evangelist developer relations team at IoTeX. And IoTeX is a blockchain, very cool technology. We're going to be talking to them in just a moment. We'll bring up all of the cool things they're working on, talk about the different types of developers between Web 2 and Web 3, their developer portal and what they're building, the tools, everything. So, but before we do that, I want to remind everyone that if you do enjoy this episode and if you do like seeing things like this, make sure you like the video, make sure you follow the ARM Software Developers YouTube channel, because we do this every single week, 5 p.m. UTC right here on this YouTube channel. So Mike, I think we wanted to start this off with you. Oh, actually, let me start this off. I want to start off real quick. Okay. I'm sorry. Last week I was not feeling so well, and it was a last minute thing. Michael and Gabe over here producing the episode now. They think they filled you in on the new roles we're taking here. I'm going to be hosting. Michael's going to be co-hosting from now on. Gabriel is playing a huge role in being our producer, making sure that the gears keep spinning and making sure that our guests are taken care of. So very happy to see them. I was somewhat shivering in bed while I was watching the episode, but I'm happy to be back. And I think
in
it went
fear
well.
or with a fever.
No, with both. Yeah, I was terrified. I was like, how are they going to do? Oh my God. But yeah, so Michael, Gabe, thank you so much for covering for me there. I really appreciate it. And moving forward, I think this is going to be great. But I did want to thank you both. Mike, you're going to give a recap of it too, right? Because I did kind of pass out halfway through.
Yeah. So last week, Gabe and I were joined by Sama and Terry from Smells Like ML, which is a blog that they run all about machine learning and artificial intelligence. And they also talked to us about a new product they've just launched called Remix AI. And this is a really cool thing because it's using AI to generate machine learning models. So instead of having to learn how to train models and set it all up and all of that, you go to remix.ai and they've got a chat GPT integration where you just talk to it about what you want your model to be. So if you want a vision AI model trained on specific things, I don't remember the example they used, but you could say cats. I want a model that's trained to identify cats. Then this chat GPT interface will go and it will build you a model for TensorFlow. I think it was TensorFlow. That then you can just download and start using. So you don't have to know how to train the models anymore. You just work with this chat AI and it does it for you. So that was really cool.
This is I want to say kind of another step towards the low code, no code movement that, I feel we're headed towards. You now have AI writing code for you. I think students are submitting code, for homework assignments that ChatGPT wrote for them. It's not just essays. But yeah, so that's interesting. I was poking around on it, and of course, I didn't get a chance to talk with them. So I'm really happy that it went well. Awesome. Cool. So I think the topic of discussion today, Michael, you're pretty familiar with blockchain, right? You love blockchain?
I'm fairly familiar with blockchain, yes. I haven't done as much as you have. I know you're a lot more knowledgeable in that than me, but I do have a lot of IoT experience. And so our guest today really kind of combined both of our passions.
Yeah, I think the first thing Michael said in our chat in Discord, something like, he was like, I don't know anything about blockchain. I don't know what I'm gonna talk about here. But Michael, I think that this is the best opportunity for us to get your most deepest questions answered around blockchain and tech. So, should we bring in our guests?
Absolutely.
Okay, we got Giuseppe Deluca. We have Simone Romano. Welcome to Innovation Coffee. How you two doing?
Good, thank you. Thanks for the intro.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I tried.
Thank you
for having us.
Of course. Yeah. I mean, the folks at IoTeX, you guys are amazing. Obviously, me and you two have done a lot of stuff. We did office hours. We did some live streams of our own in the past. The IoTeX experts, kind of branding around that. It was a lot of fun. So I want to start this off because I know you very well, but I don't even think Michael knows you. Definitely Gabe doesn't know you. Our viewers might not know you. So who are you? Let's start with Simone, and then we'll go to you, Giuseppe. Who are you and what do you do?
So my name is Simone. I work at IoTeX as a developer relation person. I am a computer engineering in terms of education, and I've studied a lot, eventually industrial automation and robotic automation, and did some research a long time ago about controlling robots in the industry, like motion control of robots for industrial applications. And I worked like 15 years into the manufacturing industry, in the automotive industry, working on machine vision, automatic machines to quality controlling automotive parts. And then finally, I came to know about blockchain in late 2017. And that's also when I came over a white paper of this interesting project called IoTeX that was kind of bridging together IoT and blockchain. And I just fell in love with this technology and just did this big change in my life and moved from normal automation to IoT plus blockchain in the IoT plus space. Yeah.
So Simone 3.0.
Yeah.
But so this was back in 2017 that you came across their white paper. I think that was when IoTeX started, right?
Yeah, exactly. That was this white paper, and one guy. I was just learning into these Telegram groups about blockchain, like general Telegram groups about blockchain. And one guy who he knew I was pretty technical as like a profile, so he submitted me this white paper, asking me, "What do you think about it? Is it worth, I don't know, looking into it?" And so I read that white paper and just said, "Okay, this is the project for me." And just started participating into the IoTeX community as an active contributor. And then after a couple of years as an active community member, I was asked, I'm honored, I was asked to join the team as a developer relation person.
That's so awesome. Yeah. So, I mean, we'll dive deeper into IoTeX, what it is, and what you guys all do as a company in a second. But let's get to know Giuseppe real quick. Giuseppe, who are you? What do you do? What's your origin story?
My origin story, that's very complex. I mean, first of all, I wanted to say following Simone's intro is kind of like playing a gig after Elvis. So I don't know if I'll be able to, my origin story is much simpler. So I actually have a background in communication. That's what I've done most of my life. Then I started working with web development, and then blockchain fascination happened by mistake. I started learning more about how to develop for blockchain. I taught smart contracts development. Then eventually I found Simone and IoTeX, and it's a project that I really believed in. It's really, I mean, every day I learn something new. I think it's maybe one of the few projects out there that is actually creating real use cases for people to actually leverage blockchain technology, which is great. And this is I'm past my first year at IoTeX, so it's I'm looking forward to what's next for sure.
Very cool. So I want to kind of just clear the air here, for everyone watching, because I feel that there is somewhat of a negative stigma that surrounds blockchain, and people automatically associate blockchain technology with cryptocurrency. and they think, oh, well, cryptocurrency, all these things that have happened over the last decade, the bad players, the good players, the ups and the downs, and, the shilling of sorts, right? But I do want to really clarify this, that blockchain is a technology, right? It's completely separated and it is not synonymous with cryptocurrency. The use cases for blockchain technology are amazing, and they actually have some really cool applications and ways to use this that can revolutionize the way we actually experience or monitor things in our space, right, in the world. And so, focusing on the IoT side of things, which is IoTeX, and this is blockchain integrated IoT hardware or something along those lines, right? We're talking about more so the endpoints, where we're integrating blockchain into the endpoints, the monitoring areas, the edge.
Well, yeah,
that's a sort of question. I guess we're diving into what is IoTeX right now, but yeah.
Yeah.
So maybe we get that question answered. What is IoTeX?
I feel
Simone?
I'll pass the ball to Simone. I think,
let's get Simone.
Seniority. Yeah.
Oh, you're muted, Simone.
Muted.
Sorry. So what is IoTeX is quite a hard question to start with. IoTeX started as a layer that what's called layer 1 blockchain. So if you are, I don't know if the audience, how much the audience here can be familiar or not. So I want to make it simple. IoTeX started as a blockchain project. So creating a blockchain that was intended to support IoT applications the best way. And then IoTeX did a lot of research into how to intersect blockchain technology with IoT, right? And this turned out to be very exciting, because it led to even the creation of some devices that were proving the results of our research, and we explored different directions in the IoT plus blockchain intersection research. And finally, the final result, I would say, of this research is how you should, I would say, design IoT devices to make them Web3 or blockchain ready or blockchain friendly. And what you need to do, what are all the layers or all the tool chain, if you want to make it this way, to build an IoT or decentralized, let's say, IoT application using blockchain. And eventually this led to what we have been building in the last 1 year, which is an additional decentralized network that sits in the middle between devices and blockchain, and which acts as a decentralized computational layer. So yeah, it's a lot. I mean,
in a nutshell. Yeah. So, but to kind of help you out here, right? People, you can go to the website. It's iotex.io. There is a lot of information here. I mean, if you go up to the navigation bar up top, you'll see a getting started area. What is WebStream, which we're going to talk about in a minute. IoTeX, the token, right? So like the coin that governs that particular blockchain. The team, you want to meet the team, go in there. It's actually a pretty big team. I think you guys have like 60 people in working for IoTeX now, something like that.
Roughly, yeah.
The ecosystem, and if you scroll down here, you'll see, I mean, like there are a lot of things happening with IoTeX. I know you have folks like PhD folks working for IoTeX that are sitting on various consortiums and boards that are like helping govern particular standards, which is very nice. So like, not only are you building for your own tech and building a company out around your blockchain, but you're also enabling the ecosystem by contributing to various standards. And I just, I think that that's awesome that you guys are allocating resources, and knowledge to those particular, I'm just looking here, right? It looks like you're part of the Confidential Computing Consortium. It looks like Industrial Internet Consortium, IEEE. So I know some of the folks that work for IoTeX are sitting on those boards. But yeah, head on over to iotex.io. You can explore a little more there. I think that was a great description, Simone. I think it's time for us to ask you guys some questions now, right?
All right.
Okay.
That was not a question. The first one.
that was just a what is IoTeX? That was a high level. Yeah. But yeah. So Michael, did you want to get one of yours? Do you want me to ask mine first?
No, I'll go ahead and ask one of mine. So
right.
I'm an app developer, and most of my IoT experience has been about writing applications that do something with the data that's being collected by these IoT devices. So how can people write apps or maybe distributed apps that work with data that's on the IoTeX blockchain?
Okay, I can take this one and start with my view, at least on this one. So talking about how can IoT developers, you're talking about, right?
Yes.
Okay, or yeah, IoT system or hardware developers. So working with IoT data itself, you want to do it right, and it's pretty hard. First of all, you have the hardware layer, you have the data processing layer. When you want to leverage some, I would say, important features of the blockchain, or which are basically, to mention the most important ones, are decentralization, immutability, and smart contracts. So let's say trusted, censorship, resilient processing on the blockchain. These are the main features that blockchain can contribute to the IoT space, to revolutionize the IoT space. So yeah, how you can, as a developer, take advantage of these features easy, because usually you would want to have your hardware to either talk directly to the blockchain, which is usually not a good way to go, or you want to connect your backend, right? That's where your data processing usually happens, with blockchain to, for example, trigger some like immutable and trusted execution on the blockchain, which usually is financial related. But turns out that this is also not very easy. That's why actually we are building all the technology that we are building to make this type of development easier, this type of marriage between blockchain and IoT easier. So to get to your question, how you can start working, I would say that there are two things I would focus on as a developer. First, I would start learning about the EVMs, which is the Ethereum virtual machine, or Ethereum is the standard de facto blockchain technology that Web3 developers use. So I would start by learning how to build a smart contract that is Ethereum compatible, and IoTeX is one of the many blockchains that are fully compatible with this standard, and so you can do so also learning and deploying your smart contracts on IoTeX. So this is the first, I would say, additional skill that a developer would need. So how to develop a smart contract, what it is, and why you want to develop one, why you want to deploy one. And second would be how you interact from your code with a smart contract. So how to trigger this execution on the blockchain from your backend. So how to learn about so-called Web3 clients that help you execute these smart contracts from your application. So usually those are also called not Web 2, not Web 3, but Web 2.5 applications, where usually they are traditional IoT applications or whatever Web 2 application that have their backend triggering some token economy on the blockchain. For example, rewards or minting some, immutable certificates for proving something in the real world. And because the connection is between a centralized service that you are using to process your data as your centralized server or whatever through a blockchain, this is why it's not fully Web3, it's not fully decentralized. But then if you want to move to a fully decentralized IoT application, this means that you want also to decentralize the IoT data processing, and this needs another type of decentralized network, because blockchain is not where you want to do this. This is kind of a long, maybe, type of discussion.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
Giuseppe,
it sounds like there's different ways you could go about it depending on what your use case is and what your business model is.
On the use case, and then to pick the.
I want to add to this too, but Giuseppe, go ahead first. There's something you want to say?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, this ties in perfectly with, at the end of your question, Mike, you said something that I see in a lot of people when they first start thinking about this, which is you said something about the data being stored on the IoTeX blockchain. And that is what normally you would think is the case. But as a matter of fact, tying in what Simone was saying, there is the necessity of this extra layer that sits on top of the blockchain to store the data and process this data. And this is what we've been working on. And this is what the WebStream
And
product is.
Encrypt and decrypt it.
Exactly, which is what basically Robert was hinting at earlier when he was showing the IoTeX page. So why is that? Is because if you think about blockchain as like this decentralized public ledger, it is not a very efficient and is not a very cheap database. So you want to store things there that are available for everybody to check and double check and make sure that like you're transparent and you make sure you're immutable and censorship resistant, like Simone was saying. But you don't want to store data there. You want to do it in a different way. And, we'll get deeper and deeper into it when we talk about WebStream. But I wanted to point this out because it's one of the first things that sort of starts shifting in people's mind when they learn about this.
Yeah, it's like back to what I was saying at the beginning, right? Like people have this negative stigma that they apply to blockchain, thinking that it's all about tokens, but in reality, it's about transacting data, right? And in many cases, it ends up being data. And I had this conversation with, I can't remember who it was. It was just the other day. I launched my first smart contract this weekend, right? So I got some experience with Solidity. Gosh, did I go down this rabbit hole? Simone, I put this huge story together that I wrote. But so after I launched this, I started to think, I was like, well, oh my gosh, how strong, how much potential is there here? What happens when the DMV, the Department of Motor Vehicles, makes all of their pink slips digital? What happens when a house title is everything is digital? Everything becomes digital, right? Well, at some point when these digital assets or digital representations of a physical asset, right? Because I mean, like I own a house or I own a car, but in reality, do I own the car because I have it in my possession and own the key, or do I own it because I have the pink slip with my name on it, right? And so how do you represent this and legitimately exchange these digital representations of a physical asset, right? In a safe and immutable and trustless or trustworthy way, right? And so this is where smart contracts, I started to like kind of, my brain just started spinning a million miles a minute. I was like, oh my gosh, you could do everything with these smart contracts if you have the knowledge and how to code it, right? So it was pretty cool. Yeah.
And that immutability, like I know from my experience in IoT, being able to track the data from device through gateways up to applications, where it's being processed, going up into a cloud or a huge data lake, like being able to make sure that you can track that entire process and you trust the data all along that process is a big topic in IoT at the moment. And it sounds like, blockchain's kind of the perfect technology for that, right? Like it can give you that immutable history and that level of trust without relying on a centralized service or company to guarantee that.
Yeah, well, that's the final part, which blockchain can definitely help with, but also everything starts also from the source of the data. So let's not forget, right, that the choice of the hardware and the firmware and the way you build the data at the source, right? You also want to trust the source, and you want to trust, of course, that the data has not been tampered with, like end to end, right, from the device up to your trusted logic on the blockchain, because that's where the fun stuff happen, and that's usually monetary oriented, and you definitely want to make sure where that data is coming from, and you want to be 100% sure who generated that data, and also that data has never been modified along its like travel between the data source on whatever intermediate layer it's been stored up to it made its way to the smart contract, eventually to trigger some, I don't know, monetary transaction, financial transaction, or even gaming if it's a game or whatever.
So
I think that is a perfect segue to, I know where you're going, Robert. Exactly.
Right? Oh, okay. We're speaking the same language here. Okay. So So what's funny, Giuseppe? So just quick side story here. Yesterday I pulled your screenshot, from LinkedIn.
Yeah.
We put it on the thumbnail, right? And I pulled it up and I showed Gabe, and I was like, Gabe, this is the thumbnail. I was like, does it look like? Does he look like what you thought he would look like? And he's like, you know what? If anyone looked like a Giuseppe, it's him. He looks like a Giuseppe.
And then I showed up like this, and it's like, oh
Yeah.
no.
Yeah. It's like when you think Giuseppe, you think, yeah, that's a Giuseppe. So yeah. So anyways, we have a Pebble tracker here. And I want to thank William, the CEO, William McCann, CEO from EnviroBlock, who we were also trying to get on this episode today. We'll get them on another episode. They used the Pebble tracker to build out their entire use case, right, for their company. And what they do is they pull data from attics or different areas within your house, and then you're able to monetize that data because with the Pebble tracker, you own it. Then you send it up into the blockchain, and then they get to utilize it, and then they can sell it to help make your house more efficient. Pitch roofers or any sort of thing like that. So I have a Pebble here. I was going to do a little unboxing, but I don't think it's going to be so easy with this far away like this. So I think I'm just going to unbox it here real quick while maybe we can talk about it, because this is an ARM-based device. It is certified by the FCC, the CE, the UKCA, the ROHS, and the battery inside by the UN 38.3. So it's a fully certified device. It has the Nordic Semi. It's a Cortex M chip in there.
M33, I believe. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So, Simone, I think we were asking you this in the green room earlier. What's the benefits here of having an ARM chip inside this board here? Why'd you choose the Nordic Semi chip?
Yeah, let's say just a few words about what is Pebble Tracker.
Oh, yeah, let's do that first.
Yeah, maybe do that.
Yeah. And then why eventually the ARM board was needed, right? In this case. So yeah, as I said, we came up with building some devices, some IoT devices, and Pebble Tracker is one of them. And it was intended to prove the concept of owning your data and like generating data that can be trusted, like IoT data that can be trusted by a smart contract on a blockchain, and so enter like a Web3 decentralized application that then can actually rely on this data and trigger some more or less serious logic on the blockchain. So everything, is about trusting the device, right? So first, trusting the device, so the source of the data, and as a consequence, also trusting the data, because once the data leaves the device, you still want to trust that it was not modified. So to achieve this, you need a high level of security that you usually already need in any IoT application, right? But because you are also introducing a blockchain layer that adds usually a financial layer on top of your data, you want to be even more secure first. And second, you also want to manage some aspect of your IoT application on the blockchain. These aspects are usually related to registering authorized devices or storing the binding between who is the device, who is the owner. And that's where you want to introduce blockchain to securely manage this information, and then use this information into your smart contracts to verify the data source, and then trigger whatever you want to trigger on success. So how you can make this possible is by usually associating an identity or a decentralized identity to your device that is stored on the blockchain. And usually this decentralized identity starts with a private key, right, of a private public key key pair. And so you have to generate this private key, and then you want to use into the device. And then you want to use this private key to first register the identity of the device on chain, and then sign the data that the device generates. And then eventually this data will leave the device. So it's extremely important that one, the private key is securely generated into the device, and it's securely used into the device to sign the data, or And also the execution, like the sensor reading and then the data processing that happens on the device, has to be executed in a secure environment to eventually like generate a packet of data that is signed and that a blockchain smart contract can trust, or whatever like intermediate layer is between the device and the blockchain. And so, of course, you need quite advanced hardware on this type of devices. And that's eventually the reason why during the time when Pebble Tracker was designed, we chose this like ARM Cortex 33, I think, system that was provided by the Nordic NRF, I think 9160 system on a chip. And basically because it's providing this like, first of all, it's a low power MCU, and Pebble Tracker was demonstrating how to create a low power asset tracker. And second, because it features the ARM's trust zone feature, that when you couple the trust zone feature with the crypto cell, that's another security related feature of the ARM chips. And then the developers is actually able to build is IoT system with extremely strong security, which is absolutely needed when you want to make this device interact with the blockchain. So I would say, yeah, it's everything related to security, and also the firmware has to be tamper-proof, right? So all these security features have to be available on the device, and that's what was provided by the ARM chip on the Pebble Tracker.
Nailed it. Mike, you wanted to say something here?
Yeah, so for people like me who are coming from more of a traditional IoT background, I just want to kind of like contrast the setup and the process of how data is off of this device. So like in a traditional environment where you're using like an AWS IoT hub or something, you go to a centralized server, you create an account on their platform. You have to then get that account data, like the username, password, or authentication token or something, onto your device. Then when the device is reading data, it connects back up to that central server and it pushes it up using like MQTT or something. And the authorization happens with that shared secret key. So there's a lot of setup that you have to do around this centralized entity to make that work. How does this work with the Pebble, and how is it using blockchain technology to kind of change that dynamic?
Yeah, so I would say what you want to do here, because the target of this data or of the insights that you generate on top of this data, the target is eventually a blockchain application. Somehow this blockchain application must have knowledge of this device, as well as of the owner, usually, of this device. And this is not different from what you mentioned, right? You want to register this device somewhere. Usually it's into your, say, I don't know, at AWS or whatever cloud. And also at some point, you will also want to register your user, right? In terms of not only register your user, but especially associate the user as the owner of the device with the actual device to allow that specific user, for example, to manage the device, right? So what you want to do is to translate these operations into blockchain operations. So usually the first thing that you do is when designing a Web3 friendly device is to register. Usually it's the public key, right, of this key pair, right, that is securely generated into the secure hardware of the device. So you usually generate this private and public key securely into the secure chips, and then the public key becomes the root of the decentralized identity, which means the identity of the device on the blockchain. So this public key is typically stored on the blockchain in some form, right? In the simplest form, you just have a list on the blockchain that lists all the public keys of your devices that you manufacture, right? And because it's stored on the blockchain, it's very hard for a hacker, right? It's almost impossible, right, to mess with that list. So you are already leveraging the immutability feature of blockchain. And then in reality, you want actually to not only store the public key, but this public key is just the link the unique link to a decentralized identity, which also includes a document with more technical features related to that device, including, for example, some cryptography information that are needed for the encryption, decryption of the data, how other devices can interact with this device, and so on and so forth. But in the simplest case, you have a public and private key, and you want to store the public key on the blockchain, right? First, that's because eventually blockchain applications will be able to check that list on the blockchain and be sure that the device they are dealing with has been registered, right? And nobody can mess up with that list. And that's the first step. Then when your device goes into the hands of the user, of the end user, you want to bind, or the user wants to bind that device to his own account. And usually it's not anymore an email and password, but it's a blockchain account. So, and again, it's very simple. Usually you have a blockchain wallet, right? What's called a blockchain wallet, which is eventually just another public key and private key that works with the blockchain, so that are like recognized by a blockchain. So as a user, I have my blockchain wallet. I can have many, okay? I just pick one. And I say, okay, this is my wallet, and I want to bind this wallet, which is my wallet, with this device. And then depending on the device, on the use case, on the user interface of the device, you have to come up with some sort of protocol where the user is proving to the blockchain that they actually own the device, which usually is all about like the device communicating some initiating this operation with the smart contract, and then the smart contract requesting like a challenge to the user that using the device can prove. Usually it's just about signature, right? Using the device to sign some message. And so proving to the smart contract that they actually own the device. And then eventually these like binding information can be solidified into another blockchain contract. And so stay there in an immutable record that is saying, okay, this blockchain account wallet is the owner of this device. And this is another fundamental information that is important in the decentralized IoT applications, because usually you want to make the owner of the device also the owner of any digital asset that has been generated on the blockchain as a result of the use of this device.
So I think Mike dropped there. I want to add to this, Simone. So an example that I use is the UCam, right? I think that you guys collaborated with some other folks to get this camera put out, right? People are very familiar with cameras at their home. You have the Nest cameras, the Ring cameras, all that kind of stuff, right? Well, in the traditional centralized fashion, right? You download the Google app, right? You scan the QR code on the back of your Nest camera, and then it links to that phone, right? And then every bit of video data that comes in, it goes right up into the server, and then it's stored there for however many time you want it to be there as a user, right? Well, taking this and putting it into a Web3, let's call it path or journey, right? Yeah. The difference is that instead of logging into your Google Home with an email and password, like you mentioned, right, you're actually using your public and private keys.
Exactly.
And then this is also very cool because you can trust that through methods of encryption, you can trust through methods of approvals, you can trust through any mechanism that you want. You know that the data that goes into the server is in fact your data encrypted by you, and you are the only one who can access it and or grant access to someone else, meaning that even though you're paying for a service from someone else, which they built an app, they provided you with the platform to interact with that data and do these things with your camera. At the same time, they've provided you that service while simultaneously granting you through a Web3 mechanism the ability to own that data and use it and grant access. So that's kind of like the example that I usually use there. And I mean, you said it much better. I feel more technically, but that's the example I usually use.
You can is another excellent example of how, in that case, how blockchain can really augment, I would say, an IoT device and make it more secure and make it possible for the owner of the device to also own, as you say, the data that they generate. And owning the data means that you decide what to do with the data, and also you are the only one in the universe who can actually decrypt that with video. This
is a big deal, Giuseppe. I mean, you should chime in here because I feel like you have some stuff to say on this.
I'm about to, yeah.
Okay, go ahead. You got it.
I wanted to expand on what you guys are talking about now because, albeit, yeah, it's streaming for developers, right? But I think it's sometimes good to, let's say, let your imagination just go a little bit, right?
Yeah, we have fun.
And exactly. So imagine what type of applications could be built with this, and this is what we are seeing. Working with IoTeX and with all these other projects that we are empowering, and we are, they're using our infrastructure. So that's why I see Web3 as an evolution of Web2. Applications that are being built now are completely different, or they have a completely new spin compared to like their Web2 counterparts. For example, you can see how, starting from what you guys are talking about, where does this go? This goes into decentralized networks of devices that are empowering and sort of like maintaining the whole network, where each member of the network is actually monetizing the work that their machine, their device is doing. And all this is not orchestrated by, let's say, a single application that's hosted on AWS, for example. And those people are sort of like reaping all the benefits. All the benefits of the network, it's sort of like there is like this network effect, this flywheel, where the more people join the network, the better the network becomes, the more everybody starts earning or starts benefiting from it. And these are types of applications that were not possible before Web3, before blockchain, and before, such devices as we're talking about right now.
You just opened a can of worms for me, Giuseppe. So now I got to say something here. All right. So us, right? Consumers, the average human, right? The average human, the data age is somewhat new, right, to humanity. The fact that, we have technology and all of this data flowing in and out of servers from endpoints, edge, back to servers, etc., just flying all over the place. And, every person, for the most part, is generating tons and tons of this data, right? From the very beginning, right? When these, big tech companies, and don't get me wrong, like I'm totally for it. I love my Facebook. I love my Instagram. I love my Twitter, X, whatever, like I use them all and I'm happy that I have them. Right. But whatever you want to say, we have really kind of already lost the battle, right? In terms of, I now say, you give me features, I give you data. And we just do it so freely. We click that button, that cookies button. We click that, I accept the terms. We click all of these things just so freely. Yeah, take my data. I don't care. Give me your features, right? Yeah. And so this is how companies are able to provide you these services for free, quote unquote, because you're giving them tons of your data. Now, what do? They take that data and they monetize it. Okay. Well, now what if we could bring some of that power back to the people? And this is where this technology really kind of, and there's a very specific example here for you guys, is that, again, I'm not trying to throw Facebook under the bus. I use them. They're good. Right. But, you think of Facebook and, there's been, rumors of, well, Facebook's going to market products using your likeness and or data to your progeny. Right. So like even products that you didn't back. So you're dead. And, 100 years from now, your great grandchild gets an ad, from their great grandfather saying, buy this product. Right. Because you gave it to them. You gave it to them free of charge. You just said, oh yeah, I want to use your chat program. And so here, take all my data and sell stuff to my great grandkids. Like these are the crazy things that are happening now. Put Web3 in the mix. And now we give us people a little more options here, right? It opens the door for more possibilities, right? Where we go from here is anyone's, guess, but I like the fact that it came about. So it's just pretty cool to think about.
I mean, and also like, no, actually it's quite cool. Also for Facebook, like they have an immense infrastructure. Oh, hey, Mike, welcome back. Immense, infrastructure costs, right? And so do all these centralized applications. With decentralized applications, these type of applications, they are community run. And so the community is running this infrastructure, and the community is benefiting from this infrastructure and from the use of this infrastructure. So I think that's sort of like one of the most empowering things about Web3, where the community has a huge role into applications.
What was it? Weren't they doing like, wasn't it Rosetta during the pandemic? They released this decentralized compute share, right? Where you shared your compute power so that they could crunch DNA. Yeah. They were crunching DNA, but they were asking you to, download this. I think it was called Rosetta. Gosh, David Tischler knows. You were able to basically take any device, grab your Raspberry Pi, hook it up, install the Rosetta program, run it, and you're volunteering your CPU, the processing power of that particular device, so that they could crunch this DNA and try to find a cure, right? And so another example of decentralized compute, playing a bigger role.
Yeah. In that case, Web3, for example, could have played the role of the decentralized incentivized. Or because, for example, I knew about it. Actually, I came to know about this system, but very late. And I think, like me, many people, but which means that many people could have joined that system, many people, right? If there was, like, for example, a decentralized mechanism for incentivize these people to join, right?
Like COVID coin.
Yeah, exactly. For example.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. Yeah, there's all sorts of different ways, right? Like you can approach it from so many avenues. I guess, long story short, there's lots of applications here. I want to give Mike a chance to maybe follow up here because he did just drop. You back?
Yeah,
buddy?
and I did unfortunately miss a lot of that conversation.
You missed it all. I went on like rants. Simone and Giuseppe went on rants. Is good.
Now you guys are even. Robert missed the first one. You missed this half of the second one. So
yeah. But so the one thing I did want to ask is, what unique challenges or maybe unique opportunities does blockchain present to the IoT space?
We already answered that while you were gone. No, I'm kidding.
For sure, the most basic things that blockchain can bring to IoT, the most obvious is security and transparency. These are like the very basic features that a blockchain application inherits, right, from just using the blockchain as the trusted execution environment for the logic, and as the trusted ledger for whatever information needs to be transparent. It needs to be like secure and as much as possible unhackable. But then you can go behind these, and as I was discussing before, to answer your question, how you register a device, how you like start an IoT application using blockchain. At that point, you have an IoT device that is somehow available to blockchain applications to be recognized and also to be trusted thanks to digital signature and decentralized identities. And that point, like, you have just an infinite number of opportunities. Even just thinking about the very popular DeFi applications on blockchain, right? The decentralized finance, which is, of course, the most popular use case for blockchain at this moment. Even just if you think of being able to inject IoT data or like proofs of insights of events that you can generate from IoT data, and then inject these proofs into blockchain and then into decentralized finance, right? And you can somehow, for example, prove that to decentralized applications that you have an income because you have, take just a vending machine. For example, I buy a vending machine, I put it on the street, right? And this vending machine can prove that I'm earning, $1,000 per month, right? And this information can be proven to the blockchain. And if you have a middle layer that can also preserve the privacy, right, of all the transactions, just calculate the inside, like the final result, which is the monthly income, right, without leaking even the income itself, right? And then proving this to a blockchain application. Then the blockchain application can first recognize the device, so the source, trust it, verify this proof, and then finally can, for example, give a lend money, right? Crypto money, of course, in change for knowing that I have an income, because this has been proven by data that has been generated by device. So that's the reason why the intersection between IoT and blockchain is so important, is because you can trust devices. Devices run software, and usually you can trust software if you can create software on a device that can be trusted. That's thanks to the features of these IoT devices, security features. And then you can trust software, and then you can trust the data that software generates. Then you can inject this information into smart contract, and then you can run whatever the blockchain space is as in ready for us to discover in the future on top of real world facts. Giuseppe, you want to say?
Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
No, and then that's all beautiful. And now the challenges. The challenge is that, because you had two parts to the question, right, Michael? The challenge is, in my opinion, that first of all, as a developer, you need to learn a whole new stack of things that are not that easy. First of all, to grasp, and second of all, to develop on. Number two, as an end user, is also not easy. If you ask the average person, okay, cool, so you have this device has a private public key pair. Now we're going to use the public key to do this, and then you can sign with this device because it's signing with the private key that you don't know, etc. It becomes complex. You need a wallet. Simone mentioned a couple of times a blockchain wallet. What happens when this wallet gets compromised? The passwords get compromised, the seed phrases, etc. So fortunately, over the years, there have been a lot of improvements in this area, account abstraction being one of the latest improvements that grants a lot of extra flexibility. But yeah, there is an extra layer of complexity at the moment, which is a challenge. But eventually the goal is to make it so seamless that these applications are running behind the scenes that for the end user, it won't really make a difference. Just right now, we don't know, how Google works behind the scenes. We don't have to. My mom doesn't have to know Google's algorithm for Google Maps. She just has to follow the blue line to get to my place.
I mean, is it like Microsoft's getting rid of passwords, right? I mean, it's kind of like something like that. It's trying to experiment and push out a new thing that people aren't what? I'm not using my email and password to sign into this. I'm not using my email and password to verify who I am. Like, what is this? And on that note, it took me, I think, 30 minutes to explain to a well-educated and career professional engineer, that you can put the same seed phrase on two different devices, and it's the exact same thing. And you can sign transactions the exact same thing with the Ledger Nano, right? So I was like, I'm going to have this one, you're going to have this one, and we both can control this smart contract with it. And whether it was semantics in terms of, the terminology I was using, and he just, wanted me to use his terminology, whatever it was, we were having this conversation forever, just for him to try and understand, no, it's the exact same thing, So moving people to this is going to be definitely a sight to see. But yeah.
I mean, that's true of Web3 in general, right? It's a brand new stack for people. And if people like me who haven't kept up with its development over the past decade, there's a lot to learn all of a sudden.
Yeah, this is what
it's not that much based on my experience. I started from really zero knowledge, and I think I even didn't have any cryptography knowledge. But I would say that the main role of blockchain is to make cryptography simple, and so eventually it's a cryptography layer. It relieves you from having to create, signature verification, and eventually you will have to deal with it. But the huge part of the job of the security aspects is done by the blockchain. You usually only use clients, and then it's the blockchain that does everything and makes all the cryptography magic work, and also the transparency and immutability and the trust part. It's all done by the blockchain. You using it, it's usually very simple. If you just study it, it's something that you, like an IT person, can grasp in a month eventually.
So
You start with zero knowledge and end with the other zero knowledge.
So guys, Simone, you caught that right when I was messaging you in Lark about that. I was like, hey, we can't just focus on developers who are already Web3 trained. If you want to get these other Web2 developers in, you got to, give them those baselines. But I should say we're at the end of the hour here, and I know you guys have to go like at the top of the hour for another meeting. And this is the reason we should bring IoT experts back. I mean, look at us just having a conversation. We should these are the conversations we got to have. So yeah, think about it. But gosh, it's been a pleasure to see you both, to have this nice chat, talk to you, and just talk about IoT and IoTeX and ARM, and it's been awesome. So thank you for joining us.
Yeah, and thank you so much for your explanations about how it all works. Like that really has helped me understand what IoTeX is in general and like how the Pebble specifically operates.
Yeah, time was definitely not enough to go into some more interesting details, but yeah, hopefully there will be another opportunity to dive deeper.
Yeah, and an hour is never long enough. So for people who are watching who want to dive more into it, who maybe want to talk to you further, where's a good place for us to send them?
I would say it's the Discord server if you want to chat with us directly. Also, if you're interested in to start building something. And of course, the developer portal is where you want to start learning the IoTeX developer portal.
Awesome.
Fantastic.
Yeah. So, I guess I'm going to just reiterate here. We have a few minutes here. IoTeX has like a full-fledged, ecosystem, right? They have resources, documentation, places to go get support. They have a YouTube channel, a Twitter. They have all that stuff. So once you dive down this rabbit hole, if you are a Web2 developer that wants to go explore some Web3 stuff, this is a great place to start. It's a fun little community. Actually, I shouldn't even call it little. It's a fun community. It's a fun group of developers, and I think that I've had a lot of fun hanging out in their circles. So definitely worth a visit. IoTeX.io. Simone, last words. Giuseppe, last words, because I am going to close this out now.
My last word is to we are very open. So if you are interested, the difference between Web3 and Web2 is that Web3 starts from the community, I think, while Web2 usually starts from the product. While Web3 starts from the community. So we are very open in discussing. If you have ideas or you want to share something or you want to learn something, just contact us directly. I mean, we are happy to start discussions.
And I think you could also reach out to me and I could connect you with them as well. So, okay, cool. Michael, anything you want to cover here before we close it out?
As always, a shout out to our Discord, the ARM Software Dev Discord. You'll find myself there. You'll find Robert there and Gabe, plus like 100 different ARM experts that we've recruited from inside the company to be part of our community and talk directly to software developers. Experts, ambassadors, members. There's just like a bunch of action in there. I love checking it every morning and seeing the introductions channel. It's pretty cool. Okay, Mike, I'm going to close this out. All right. All right. Okay. Thank you, Simone. Thank you, Giuseppe. Yeah. Thank you, okay. Guys. Thank you very much. Everyone watching at home, thank you so much. Whether you're watching on live or on demand, make sure you hit the like button, subscribe to us, and we'll see you next week on Innovation Coffee. Take care. Have a good day. Bye, everyone.